when we understand gender digital divide, we always have in our mind men and women. We have a very binary worldview, perspectives informing policy making, right? Everything that surrounds us is largely constructed by a very cis-heteronormative framework. So in that context, we really wanted to understand the experiences of transgender people in today's digital landscape. How are the digital policies shaping their right to access, welfare, recognition? And we had this consultation with our community members, and you will see all of them directly and listen to them. So post this documentary, we would like you to also share your reflections, and then you can move to other sessions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Arpita from the Digital Empowerment Foundation. For over 2 decades, we have worked to address India's growing digital divide. While the gender digital divide is now being acknowledged and is being addressed to a large extent, it's still framed in binary terms, often excluding transgender persons and many others across the gender spectrum, especially those facing layered marginalities at the intersection of caste, class, gender, demography, and disability. This study, whose Citizenship Counts, explores what digital citizenship means for those who are outside these normative categories of men and women, and breaking away from this binary to understand and build a comprehensive framework of assessing gender digital divide, which will inform policy making. This study is an attempt to understand, dig deeper, and engage with the participants from the communities to get their powerful insights, first-hand lived experiences to inform policy making, and we think marks the beginning of a more meaningfully inclusive, transformative policy journey in India. Thank you.
I would say these 2 things. One is the CAA and NRC, which gives the umbrella of who is a citizen, right? In India, it's not specific to trans person. And then the trans community related legal things, starting from NALSA to the transgender protection law, and then all the other PALs and other cases that are filed in the high courts and the Supreme Courts. It's not a physical world anymore. You can be a living, breathing person, but your documents are not there, you're erased. So for a trans person, it's like you exist in one form digitally, but that's not the form that you are on who you are.
I think the vast majority of people still facing hurdles with recognition. For example, the education boards recognize people's applications for change of gender and name on their on their educational certificates, but very few boards have actually implemented it, and that's a serious barrier to employment for a lot of trans folks. And I think that's the most serious one. As you say, with travel and so on, there are issues. Again, if you're traveling to countries like the US, which only recognize binary genders in visas, then you have several activists in India who have been invited to conferences in the US and so on, can't travel. Not just the US, most countries in the world don't have a third gender or what I prefer to call a trans, any form of non-binary trans recognition in terms of visas, right? Even if they have domestic recognition, they don't recognize people who are coming in on visas and passports that are non-binary. So that's another example. And there are many such, right?
तो आधार सेंटर जो है वो क्योंकि प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स के पास होते हैं, तो वहां पे बैठा इंसान बोल सकता है कि नहीं, ये तो नहीं करना. एंड देन डिजिटाइजेशन से क्या होता है कि जिसको हम बोलते हैं डिस्क्रिशन, ब्यूरोक्रेटिक डिस्क्रिशन एक प्रकार का आ जाता है, वो उसके कारण और बन जाते हैं. जैसे अब हरियाणा में हम लोग आधार सेंटर गए तो वो हमें बोलेगा एक ट्रांस इंसान को कि जेंडर चेंज करने का ना ऑथराइजेशन ही नहीं है मेरे सिस्टम में, तो विच इज नॉट ट्रू. ईच आधार एनरोलमेंट सेंटर हैज इट. तो वो बोलेगा नहीं है, ये तो तुम्हें चंडीगढ़ जाके ही कराना पड़ेगा या दिल्ली. तो वो टालने के बहाने ज्यादा बन जाते हैं कि हमारे सिस्टम में ये नहीं हो रहा, हमारे पास ये ऑप्शन नहीं है, हमें इस चीज का एक्सेस नहीं है. आधार में एक बार जेंडर चेंज कराने के लिए जैसे कोई डॉक्यूमेंट एक्चुअली चाहिए नहीं, कोई मेडिकल डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं चाहिए, कुछ भी नहीं चाहिए. but the person there can still make up arbitrary rules कि हमें ये डॉक्यूमेंट दो वो डॉक्यूमेंट दो. तो आधार इज लिंक टू पैन कार्ड. अगर हमने आधार में चेंज करा भी लिया, जब तक पैन कार्ड में नहीं चेंज कराया बैंक अकाउंट्स चलने बंद हो जाते हैं. तो when young trans people are trying to get a job in formal sector of any sorts which pays directly through the bank, वो नहीं हो पाता, तो उनका सैलरीज नहीं आ पाता. और पैन कार्ड में जेंडर या नाम चेंज कराने का प्रोसेस इज मच मोर डिफिकल्ट बिकॉज पैन अथॉरिटीज आर स्टिल नॉट एक्सेप्टिंग द ट्रांसजेंडर सर्टिफिकेट.
तो गरिमा ग्रह का काफी अच्छे से फीडबैक दे पाऊंगा मैं, क्योंकि मेरे खुद के पास सेंशन ऑर्डर आ चुके हैं कि तपीश फाउंडेशन को गरिमा ग्रह सितंबर में मिल चुका है, बट सिर्फ कागजों पे. हम लोगों ने वो सारे चीजें फॉलो की जो उन्होंने हमें स्टेप बाय स्टेप बताया. सितंबर से जुलाई खत्म होने आया, करीबन 8 से 9 महीने, 1 रुपया नहीं डाला है. और गरिमा ग्रह तो पूरा फेल है, क्योंकि और भी जो 13 लोगों को मिला है गरिमा ग्रह जो आज से 2 साल पहले है, वो अभी तक लड़ रहे हैं. 2 साल हो गए, अभी तक 1 रुपया नहीं डला है उनको. तो जहाँ पे सुरक्षा ही नहीं मिल रही, वो घर किस काम का. घर तो इसलिए बनता है ना कि हम सुरक्षित रह सके. तो इसीलिए मैं गरिमा ग्रह का जो इनका आइडिया था वो इसे फेल बताऊंगा. हर जगह से, फंडिंग से लेके या सुरक्षा को लेके या खाने पीने को लेके, न्यूट्रिशन को लेके. दूसरा ये है कि अभी जैसे ट्रांस एक्ट आया हुआ है, ट्रांसजेंडर पर्सन प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ राइट एक्ट, जिसके अंदर टीजी कार्ड की बात की है. अब टीजी कार्ड का पूरा प्रोसेस ऑनलाइन है. 15 दिन का जो है एक्ट में लिखा गया है कि 30 दिन के अंदर आपको सेक्शन 6 का मिलेगा, देन 15 डे में आपको सेक्शन 7 का मिलेगा. तो उस कार्ड को लेने में करीबन 1 से 2 साल लग रहे हैं. क्यों? क्योंकि एक तो ट्रांस के बारे में कोई अवेयर नहीं है हमारा स्टेक होल्डर, और जिनको काम दिया गया है वही सेंसिटाइज नहीं है. तो एक वो वाला कि ऑनलाइन पता ही नहीं है लोगों को कि टीजी कार्ड किस तरीके से ले. तो कहीं ना कहीं ये सारी गैप दिखती है कि किस तरीके से आप इसको डिजिटल युग बोल रहे हो जहाँ पे इतने सारे इशू है.
For digital healthcare, a lot of trans folks did not always like to go to a doctor physically unless they'd have someone they'd go to regularly and they can go to that doctor. Even general physician I'm talking about, even if you have a cough or cold or whatever, you can't go. And of course for transitioning and all, you go to your doctor and then wahan pe bhi just being in healthcare spaces is not a friendly experience for trans people ever at all. Like you take from entering a hospital to sitting in the waiting area, other people eyeing you, whatever, nobody wanting to sit next to you and all that, to the attendants who are there, to nurses refusing to touching you and everything. So there are multiple layers of how this experience, people experience these spaces. If you're a trans man, if you go to a hospital, the doctor will be, you don't know what reaction you might get from those, anybody in that hospital, and it's violence of a kind that is so difficult to make sense of. It's like you go there for care and you get everything except that, or maybe more, maybe you need more care to recover from that experience of going to a hospital. So it has always been better for trans people to use more digital kind of spaces. So ever since all of this WhatsApp online consultations have come up, it's become much easier for trans people to actually access a lot of healthcare. Even if it is about transitioning, even if it is about mental health. So within the community we have some database of, okay, these are trans friendly therapists, or these are trans friendly gynecologists, or these are those people who won't judge you and will give you an online consultation, and they will not charge you too much also. So it has been helpful, but the moment you institutionalize these things and you bring in AI and everything, that's when it becomes a little more slippery. And I don't know, many kind of biases that already exist in society will translate in these systems.
Most people find it very difficult to transition in workplaces and have people respect a change in name and pronouns. People don't feel that they should put in the cognitive effort to refer to somebody by a change of name or pronouns that they're expressing. And that forces a lot of people out of the workspace. Once people transition, they find it very hard to get hired in the first place. Because India is a labor surplus country. You always have a lot of applicants for every position. So it's very easy to deny employment to trans people and not have to provide a reason for it, right? They're just excluded with the vast majority of applicants. In terms of their documents, it's even harder because, as I said, the educational institutions are not changing documents. So typically you're providing a CV for an application that has inconsistent names and genders across different documents. And many people who hire are just not even taking this as a serious application, or they think it's a fraudulent application. So a lot of, the big question is sort of, are institutions even hiring trans people?
तो उन्होंने जब अपनी आइडेंटिटी डिस्क्लोज करी तो उन्हें निकाल दिया गया है, और बहाना ये नहीं लिया है कि जेंडर के कारण। एक दो को तो मुंह पे बोल दिया है कि नहीं हमारे और भी जो स्टाफ है उनको अनकंफर्ट हो जाएगा अगर हम लोग आपको रखेंगे। दूसरा ये है कि बहुत लोगों को कुछ दूसरा बहाना कर दिया निकाला में।
So any entrepreneurship programs or projects or any businesses has to be supported by the communities only. So the community network of transgender community has its base as a begging, because it is coming from a cultural base that begging has become the main source of income. If we say that business can be one of the alternatives other than sex work or begging, then it becomes again challenge within the community only. So this is one of the challenges also which we are facing.
Transphobia is like probably the minuscule within that, which means it gets the lesser of the attention. Even in this trans protection bill, I think the for violence against trans woman or a trans person, there's 6 months minimum, but then if it is like a cis woman, it is 2 years minimum, which was the case 5 years back. I think it is still the case.
Yeah.
So the government itself is like discriminatory towards a trans person, right? You get lesser punishment if you harass a trans woman rather than a cis woman. So there is this what you call carrot for harassing a trans woman, and then how that harassment is seen, it is erased. Like, let's say a trans woman walks into a police station to file a complaint, what respect that person will have, how serious the police will take that, how much resources will be mobilized for it. All of that is a question mark, right? So where do you find safe space within all this?
One of the things I think really needs to be recognized to change this situation of employment is this question of, are trans people effectively really able to apply to your organization? That's one. Are people getting in through to the door? Two, is there some reason that trans people think they can apply to your organization? At this stage, most trans people who are looking for jobs that I know of are so tired of applying and getting rejected that they're increasingly applying to jobs that someone else in the community says, oh, this place is trans friendly or that place is trans friendly. So if you are a trans friendly organization or you want to be, make sure you're putting that out there in some way, right? On your website or wherever you're hiring and so on. Thirdly, I think, once people are in, ensure that they're getting the accommodations, the bathrooms, the basic facilities that they need. 4, put in place an email policy. So the digital realm operates within organizations. People's email IDs within the organization, their ID cards, these become the basis on which they're identified to other people in the organization. Suppose somebody transitions and the other people on their team aren't accepting their new name and pronouns. They want to, they're supportive, but they're not able to make that cognitive switch. There should be a provision whereby they can switch to another team in the organization, and the organization ensures that the new team is just dealing with the new name, the new, gender identity, so that this person can actually have a fresh start within the organization and not have to look for another job just because they've transitioned. So various, measures like that, I think, to enable this transition within the organization, enable a change in how people are represented digitally and so on. That's important. And finally, I think there needs to be, every organization needs to have an anti-discrimination officer of some kind. Some method by which people who are feeling that there's a discriminatory environment have some recourse. And that person should not be a management appointee, but should have some, like an ombudsperson, some kind of independence and distance from the organization. In many Scandinavian countries, for example, Cuba and Iran are some of the only states that really pay for people's transition costs through their democratization and accessibility around their healthcare. In general, there are other things that some other countries that have that we don't. For example, we don't have anti-discrimination law more broadly. Therefore, we don't have a good way in which any form of discrimination can be penalized. And we don't essentially have civil remedies. That we don't have functional civil remedies because civil courts take so long and the burden of proof is so high. There are also structural weaknesses that we can't fix. For example, the fact that trans people can at least get hired in various jobs in what's loosely called the global north is held up as something that they're doing better than India. It's true that a lot of employment discrimination in India is very specifically centered around the framework of caste patriarchy. So there's discrimination also. And I think it's important to realize that those are structural issues that are not quickly solvable, whereas other structural issues, such as the lack of anti-discrimination law and the strength of civil courts, these can be addressed.
What we can learn probably is more of the empathy and equality and rights that is not digital focused, because digitally India is better, like our banking systems are better than European banking systems. Try opening a bank account in Sweden, you'll have to wait for a month. We have to learn is this idea of a right and equality that goes into thinking of policymakers. Oh, this is enough for these people is what policymakers think, right? Oh, why do you need all that? So that a system cannot change. Where India lacks is that empathy, right? That equality, because our society is not modern or equal, it is still feudal. So the learning that we have to take from Europe is probably their rights-based, equality-driven society where privacy or personal space or dignity or other legal rights are respected.
Here, like we saw the people, they are researchers, they are professors, they are IT professionals. Two of them were from the tech community themselves. So I think it's very important learning for all of us, and we really feel that we all of us from different sectors, we have to rethink how we think about digital divide in India, and then factor in experiences of wide range of people who are part of our India's diversity. So that is one. Second, based on this consultation, Suruchi, Maitri and I have written a report which details everything, right? And that is going to be launched today at 4 p.m. in this room with one of the participants from the documentary, and then another trans man, Santosh Sira, who works as a volunteer with traffic police in Hyderabad and is a trans rights activist here. So we would love for you to come back at 4 o'clock. We will share with you about the report, the recommendations that of course were shared directly with them and also in written form, along with a direct conversation with members of the community. Thank you so much. If you have any reflections, you could please share.
So thank you so much for this great work that you guys have done. Certain things that stayed with me, for example, on the Aadhaar example, this person mentioned that there is a provision in the system, but people are not willing to do that. So PAN card, we understand that, okay, there is no provision, in the system. But Aadhaar, if the government is taking a step, but the people who are actually sitting in the offices are not open to embrace that. So that's another level of challenge. So it's twin. It's people mentalities as well as platforms. So it's everywhere. So thank you so much. I think it was good.
Actually go for physical verification to self-identify as a trans person, then you have to face the same society. That is internalized with a lot of transphobia. So definitely that is a very important point, but we will never put the onus on individuals here. We are part of a society where we are brought up in a certain socio-cultural, political, economic context, which we are fed with also through our families, through our education, through our mainstream sources of knowledge. So, I mean, good to have these spaces where we can actually move from those boundaries and also question and incorporate them in our work. Yeah, anything else?
It's nice to, see and hear, people talking about these the disparities. But even today, the first reaction when we look or you come across a transgender, mostly in the common spaces, sadly on the roads or, near traffic junctions, we feel very sad for them. But then, the very first reaction is a sort of a shock as to, we don't understand, like, where they are from. It is of no, fault of theirs that the nature, gives that kind of a persona. And it is for common people like us, who are having, digital your gender, like say either man or woman. We do not understand actually, even physiologically as well as the psychological aspect of being a transgender. And definitely we do not see them in any workspaces where it will be very hurtful to to see that there is empowerment for these marginalized people in the society. Thank you.
It's not in our syllabus. We are fed with that from day one, so we are internalized so much, so everything is other. Whoever we don't see them in our imagination, they're other. So when there is an idea of other, it's fearful, it's scary. We don't know what's going on. So lack of trust emerges. And I think we have deeply grown up with lack of trust to actually look at people who don't look like us. So that's one definite reason why what your observation is. And second, what you say about workplace. So International Labour Organization, right? It actually accounts for transgender people's work safety, workplace safety, but that the Indian IPC labor codes don't reflect the same. And that's a question for all of us as Indians. There are IPC sections for women, cisgender women. Why aren't there any IPC sections to account for the harassment, the bullying, the everyday challenges that transgender people face? We don't have them in our labor codes. And that's a question to ask. And when we have workplace safety, when we have recognition, and when we have respect and dignity, then there will be trans people who will be part of our workplaces as well. And I think that's what Bittu also said in the beginning, that we will have to take those very conscious efforts to employ trans people and then make that workplace friendly and secure. So yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Or, okay, please.
We can't think about change because there is a concept nothing about us without considering us. So we should consider these transgenders, etc. kind of people in these policies. So yeah, because India is a very rich, I can say, culturally, and this, I can say, this cultural diversity is also a hindrance in many, I can say, developments, etc. kind of things. So we should think about these so that we can't, मतलब हमें मतलब ये जो ये कल्चरल डाइवर्सिटी है वो भी प्रिजर्व हो जाए और डेवलपमेंट के बारे में भी सोचना चाहिए. So
thank you for your observation. Yes. See, one person in this room itself. So we'll have to ensure that every space that we are in, we have to have that participation as well. Struggle for cisgender women has been for so long to, be here. And we are here. Some of us are here. Not all women are here. And when we talk about transgender people, they are also they're not a homogeneous community again, right? So NALSA judgment, which came in 2014, that guarantees the right to self-identification, did not include horizontal reservations. That's very important. What about Dalit, Bahujan, Adivasi, trans people who need caste, anti-caste, like reservation rights, affirmative action to actually be in a situation where they can access resources. If the NALSA judgment does not guarantee horizontal reservation, then a lot of trans people who are anyway left out of resources are further excluded because of their caste identities, right? Caste locations. So there are layers of it, and we should understand them more, and we should engage with the subject more, and only then we can have meaningfully inclusive spaces. Thank you. I think we should stop here because of time.